All right, this is Mr. Dobler, and I just wanted to give you a quick demo of how you might go about trying to figure out the lighting that you want to accomplish for an interior scene, sort of like the one that we see, this classroom scene, where you can take kind of an ordinary location, and if you're strategic, you can, very quickly and very simply make some modifications to the light that give you the kind of feel and the kind of illumination that you are going for your scene. So, one of the best things to do right off the bat, of course for interior scenes, is when you get into a space, just turn the overhead lights off. See what's already in the room. If there's anything coming through the window, sometimes it's hard to notice what you've got in the room, especially if there are strong overhead lights, like in a classroom. So turn those overhead lights off and just turn the camera on and just see what the camera sees. And you can tell right away we've got some nice ambience coming from the lamps in the back. That can, be something that we use for practical lighting, if that fits our scene, or we can kind of let some other lighting kind of overpower those lamps. It's our choice. We also have a window that is placed on the right side of the scene. And right now the curtains are in front of the window and the blinds are closed. So what we've got coming through there is just a very small amount of natural lighting. So one of the things that we know is we want light to have a strong direction. So let's create a direction and let's just open up those blinds and see what happens. Whoa! Talk about hard lighting. All right, so the direct sun is shining right through the window, and we can tell that it's hard lighting because of the shadows and how defined that they are. This is creating a couple of different problems. First of all, if we put any people in this scene, we are going to have lighting on them that is probably not going to be flattering, especially if this is kind of a character-driven scene. And then, not only that, but we are creating strong areas of highlight and strong areas of shadow, just because of the range of bright to shadow that we have in the scene. So that's going to give our camera difficulties. We can even see in the reflection in the chair leg and kind of areas on the floor and the chair itself. We're kind of losing some of the information there, some of the highlights. So we want to kind of tone that down a little, but we know that if we close the window blinds, it's too dark, or then we kind of also lose a lot of that direction. So what do? Well, let's try using our 8x8 Scrim gem. So if we set up the Scrim gem and mount it on a C-stand and just put it right in front of the window to the right, here's what happens. Big difference. Now, the benefit to the Scrim gem is that it cuts down on a small amount of light, about 2/3 of a stop, so you don't lose a lot of your light that's coming through the Scrim gem. But it does diffuse it quite nicely, and so in essence, the Scrim gem is like a big softbox for a window, let's say. Or you could put light panels behind it and blast them through the Scrim gem. And in effect, what you're doing is creating a large 8x8 light source. And the effect of that light source is that it's going to not only create more even lighting, but it's also going to diffuse a lot of the harsh shadows. So pay particular attention to the shadows created by the chair legs, and you'll see the difference in how much those shadows soften up just by putting the Scrim gem in front of the window. And of course, we don't have any areas of blown out highlights. We've evened up the kind of the shadow in the lit areas. And this is just kind of a nice area light. Now, we have lost a little bit of the emphasis that we had on the lamps. All right, so we don't notice the lamps as much just because this light is still very strong and it's kind of overpowering those lamps. So again, if we like that ambiance, there are a couple things that we could do, a couple modifications. So one thing that we could do is we could kind of cut back on that light coming through the window by partially flagging it. So all I did was I took one panel of the curtains that are on the window and they're both pulled back at this point. So I let one kind of hang in front of the window as sort of like a flag. And then that creates this kind of a scenario. So now we've got about half as much light coming through the Scrim gem. It's still soft, as we can tell by the shadows, and it's much more even. It's still directional, but it doesn't have quite the intensity that it once had with both curtain panels open. And so what you notice immediately is that those lamps in the background become much more of a part of the feel of the scene. A lot more ambiance is coming from those. Now, if this is sort of your shot, and that works for you, then that's great. But let's say, for example, where those cases are, you've got a character that's sitting there facing the camera, and you can tell by the cases that that character's face is not going to be well lit, and that may again be what you're going for. But let's say that you want to brighten that up just a little bit. Think about the way that the room is lit at this point. We've got two lamps that we sort of know are there. So if we kind of have a lamp-like source coming from, say, the direction of the camera that is falling on those cases, that's going to make sense in this scene. So what we can do is we can set up a light panel just to the camera's left, and we want to imitate the color temperature of the light. So we can put a half cut of CTO, convert to orange gel, on the light, and that'll warm the light up, because remember, those LED panels are balanced for daylight. So it'll warm that up, and it kind of will give the impression that there's a lamp elsewhere in the room. So let's kind of see what that might look like. So we scrub forward a little, and you can see as we brighten up that LED fixture just to the left, you see the effect it begins to have on the scene. And notice that it looks very natural. It looks like it blends in. It doesn't look like we have an LED panel sitting to the left of the camera. It looks like there's basically another lamp in the room. And so it's a nice way to kind of augment and support the practical lighting that's already in the room, which again goes back to the idea of when you get into an interior space, turn off any overhead lights and see what you've got. And then if there are any lamps in the room, turn those on and just kind of see how the room feels with those practical lights on. Just sort of, a lot of times you'll find if you'll work with the lighting that's already present in the room, it'll kind of suggest to you a way of lighting the room that makes sense. So you can see that you have quite a few options. You start with a kind of a dark room. You're able to manage the harsh sunlight, but still keep a lot of the power coming from that window by using the Scrim gem to soften it. We can further manage the Scrim gem by knocking down the amount of window that's uncovered that's going through the Scrim gem. And then we can even augment with another light source that blends well into the scene that we've already set up. But if you can learn how to see light and how to manage the direction, the quality, and the intensity of the light, as well as the color, then you can do a lot of things. There are a lot of tricks you can kind of learn, and a lot of ways that you can pull off just about any lighting scenario that you need to create. So hopefully you see a little bit of what's possible with just a couple pieces of the equipment that we have. And good luck.